Well, the Nile Mill was part of the huge sort of expansion in Oldham during the 19th century, as it were, 20th century, and is one of 60 or so mills that at one time existed in Chadderton. There are a significant number of mills that are in varying stages of repair, renovation, etc., and looking for alternative uses. And the Nile Mill is in that category. It's suffered a long period of decline and neglect, etc. It has now been rescued, if you like, by the current owners, and who are now in the process of trying to repair the mill in order to bring it back into full use. And no work has been done on the engine house, which is the aspect of the mill which is responsible for its contributes to its listing. Now the owners are keen to create new employment opportunities, and the owners of the mill have said to Chadderton Together, is there any way in which you might be able to renovate the engine house and bring it back into community use? And Chadderton Together are currently working with a team of architects, planners, etc., in order to try and find a means of bringing the building back into use as a community facility, as a conference facility, education room, meeting place, cafe, etc. Perhaps even incubators, small businesses that might benefit from that kind of space, but at the same time looking to engage the wider community on a voluntary basis, who might therefore be able to run groups and organisations that would benefit from the use of the space.
We're chartered building surveyors, and we specialise in the restoration of old buildings as well as refurbishments and renovation. We were approached about 2 years ago by Chadderton Together to do a condition survey. The initial idea was to look at if we can rehabilitate it into some kind of community use. But to do that, we need to first establish the actual overall condition of the building, which is extremely poor. We understand that the building's been empty, or the engine house has been empty and redundant since 1960, and it's just been left to rack and ruin. The years have certainly taken its toll, and there's structural issues, and some of the parts of the building have become unstable. We now feel that we're at a crossroads where the buildings either needs to be rehabilitated and put back into use, or is going to become sort of beyond that position, and the only other route then would be demolition. Nile Mill was built in 1898 by P.S. Stott from the Nile Mill Spinning and Doubling Company. Philip Sidney Stott was the third son of renowned Oldham-based Stott family who dominated architectural design of the cotton mills at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th. Philip Sidney Stott was largely regarded as Oldham's greatest architect under the name P.S. Stott. He designed 22 mills in Oldham alone and 55 elsewhere in Lancashire. Most of the spinning mills in Oldham, and indeed in the northwest, are actually unique in their own rights. Nile Mill was, when it was constructed, was the largest ring beam mill actually in the world, so it's got historical context. A large proportion of the money at the time during construction was actually spent on the engine houses, so these really were a place of fancy. Looking at the architectural detailing of the engine house, even compared against the remainder of the mill, is very distinctly different. The interior of the engine houses at the time were all glazed tiles, whereas the rest of the mill was much more basic. Nile Mills is no different to any of the other mills. Some of the interior design and detailing has been retained, but has unfortunately suffered just through neglect. Well, the windows are all deteriorated and are missing, so both the weather and vermin have managed to sort of penetrate the inside of the building, so it makes it very difficult to actually survey and actually access the building. The immediate necessity is to provide temporary works and to make sure the building is actually rendered wind and watertight. This would stop any further deterioration.
The Nile Mill is in Chadderton, which is a separate town to Oldham, and it's been shown that after Bolton and Oldham itself, Chadderton was the third largest cotton spinning town in Lancashire in terms of the number of spindles that it housed within its mills. And the Nile Mill was opened in 1898 at a period when mill architecture was becoming quite impressive. From then till the First World War, it was also a double mill. It's like two mills in one with a central engine house. It was the last cotton mill to be built with the traditional beam engine and the associated gearing and vertical drive shaft. A beam engine, the engine actually rocks, that's why it's called a beam, and it turns a cog which turns another cog and transmits the power upwards through all the floors through metal cog wheels. So it was very, very noisy. It was a very noisy type of engine, and the Nile was quite unique in many respects. It was the first all ring spinning mill in Lancashire, in which the rings, they were all stationary in the machine, and the spindle whizzed round and it put twist in and it wound it on the bobbin at the same time. So it really revolutionised spinning, but the industry did decline because of competition from abroad, especially the East. And as it became obvious that it weren't going to survive, the government came up with schemes to close down mills, and one of them was a government act in 1959 in which they gave compensation to mills if they would close down on condition that the machinery was broken up. This obviously was to stop it being exported to other countries. So you'll find out that a lot of mills closed down in 1959, the Nile being one. I think it lasted till 1960, but it was a victim of this Closure Act. And in Chadderton now, the last mill was the actual Chadderton Mill that closed in the year 2000. And it was an industry in Chadderton that lasted from 1776 to 2000, quite a long time, and what put Chadderton on the map and changed it from being a rural township into a large industrial town.
The important thing about mills is that they are well constructed, they are robust structures with strong flooring and able to be used for a range of other uses. Nile Mill is a listed building and is protected and has found new uses, but Nile Mill is actually a very rare survival of a double mill built as a double mill and still intact. The engine house is in a particularly poor condition. The parapets are leaning, a lot of the roof is in poor condition. It's beyond economic restoration by the private sector, but with the community being able to access grants from the government and elsewhere, then the most likely scenario for its restoration is for the community to take it over. The point about mills is that they were built to take very heavy machinery and machinery that moved and vibrated, so their structures, they are particularly strong. They are capable of being used for a range of other uses. They have good headroom, they generally have good servicing and yards about them, so they are very flexible buildings. Much of the mill has already been restored or is being restored, and there are a wide range of existing tenants in there. What we're focusing on is those parts of the mill that are actually vacant and can't find commercial uses, and these are the engine house, which is basically a cube 60 foot round, and the boiler house, and potentially retaining the chimney. These are key features within the building and offer themselves for community use for events, meetings, etc., plus some sort of heritage facility, which are uses that aren't commercially viable, but are things that the community have said they would like to see in that building. And we're pleased to say that the current owner is very willing to work with the community to come up with a restoration scheme for these parts of the mill. The engine isn't there anymore, but you can see the structure and how the engine fitted in, and you can see some of the machinery that connected to the engine. So it is a very attractive space and quite dramatic space that lends itself to uses as disparate as weddings, community meetings, set within a sort of a heritage display with ancillary facilities being built alongside for offices, kitchen, cafe, etc. The main body of the mill looks to have a successful future ahead of it. There are a number of users in there and it's commercially viable. The engine house and the boiler house and chimney at the back need more attention, but through funding from the government, council, other public bodies, there are opportunities available to community groups, but not to a private owner, to secure the renovation of those parts of the building. Thus far, the local community has managed to secure money from Oldham Council, which has been used to look at feasibility study. We've done an assessment of the condition of the building. We have some draft plans that have been put together that show how the building can be restored and used, and they have been submitted as part of a listed building application to Oldham Council. Once this work has been completed and we have consents, there are funding opportunities, for example, the Community Ownership Fund run by the government. There are trusts that support heritage projects, and there may be other opportunities to secure funding for social enterprises that will ensure that we can probably find the £600,000–700,000 needed to restore the building to future long-term use.
So it has a conservation aspect, a cultural aspect that we are very keen to try and ensure survives. We need to persuade Heritage Lottery and other appropriate funding partners to support the project in stages so that we can gradually bring the building back into use, looking at educational facilities, conference facilities, exhibition facilities, meeting place, etc., workshops, cafe, office, meeting rooms of one sort or another, small business spaces, etc., and so forth, which are in short supply, not only in Chadderton but in Oldham generally, and therefore we feel that this would be an important venture which will help to promote economic growth, not only in Oldham but in the wider region in many ways, and we think it's something that desperately needs to be taken forward.
The mill is located in what it looks like a very traditional area with terraced housing, with a number of mills nearby, and it creates an ambience in the area that is attractive and takes people back. The mill has the capacity to make great contribution to the local community, and it's great now to be part of a project to seek the restoration of the mill for a range of new uses, including community and employment, with the idea that we can host things like events, whether it's a local wedding, a local meeting, or a larger specialist function that pulls people in. Chadderton is well located on the motorway network for both M62, A627M and M60. The mill itself can be easily accessed off Broadway, and it has parking and space around it to secure a wide range of future activities. And it is a very attractive building and well worthy of retention, especially as it is clearly suitable for a new range of uses that serve the local area and employ people, going back to how it was originally when it was a major employer in the area.
I just think there's a fantastic opportunity to retain a building. It's a fantastic building to be working in context with. It's a brilliant project for us. It's very, very exciting. It's very unique at the moment. So a lot of these buildings are either being demolished or have already been put into other uses. So for my company, it's an excellent opportunity.
Oldham Council are very keen to support this project. They're willing to work with us. They've given us a grant of 20,000. As is the case with all of these projects, they need to raise money through the grant system for more serious money, if you like, bigger grants that will enable us to take forward the renovation project in stages. The group have been fortunate in that they were able to obtain a grant through the Local Improvement Fund, which enabled us to do some prep work with the architects and planners, etc. It's important that the community are involved in it and that they have the opportunity to contribute to the proposed design and the eventual use of the building, because we'll be looking to engage with the voluntary sector to help to bring in a wider audience, if you like, into the building, which is important. So it is an attempt, if you like, to cater for as many different groups and organisations as possible across the full age range, including ethnic groups and so forth. We need all of those to contribute, if you like, to the success of this project, and that it'd be all embracing and help to bring people together.